Hi, everybody. We are here with Kate DiBiase from Northstar Mortgage Group, one of the top broker owners out in Maine. We had a chance to get to know each other just a few months ago out in Costa Rica at the AIME Expert Awards, which was amazing. So I'm so excited, to be able to chat with you again. So Kate, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. So we're going to dive right in because I know everyone's got a crazy morning right now. One of the things that you've always been great at is referral partnerships and keeping your clients informed of everything that's going on throughout the process. Obviously, right now is even tougher, but also even more critical than normal to make sure everybody's informed. So starting with your referral partners, can you just tell us a little bit about who your referral partners are, for one, and how you're communicating all of the volatility in the market to them right now?
Yeah, so I think biggest referral source would be realtors. So it's definitely something where I'm checking in with them, whether it's text message, phone calls, whatever it might be, just to kind of give them updates, even ones that we might not have a lot of transactions going on together right now. I still feel like it's important for them to know what they might, be up against.
Absolutely. So are you trying to stay in front of them by sending like regular emails out about new changes that are coming? Are you posting on your social media? What are you doing to make sure that they're getting all the information that they need?
Yeah, I've just been using the personal touch. So that's definitely, I know Anthony asked me about, business development and if I'm, more consumer or, realtor relationship based. And that's definitely something that this has caused me to kind of have a little bit more time to step back and say, okay, where are the areas I need to improve? And, what can I do to keep, in front of my realtors at the same time? So by now, at this point, I'm just doing, what I've always done with the phone calls, the text messages, the emails, absolutely. But definitely something that I'm working towards is being, one of my goals for this year is to be more active on social media. And, do more, consumer direct, which is definitely something that I'm going to start implementing soon. So I'm very excited.
Very cool. So you're kind of using this time to make sure all the people that you've had relationships with before are still getting everything that they need from you, but also looking at expanding your business model a little bit at the same time and dabbling in some methods that maybe you haven't used as often in the past.
Yeah, definitely. I want to use this time to benefit because I'm in this for the long run. So I think that it's important when we have times like this to reevaluate and see what has worked in the past, what isn't working, what can I do differently? And this has actually allowed me, just to look at things more positively and to be like, okay, this is a time where I can actually kind of regroup. I didn't expect it. This isn't the typical spring market, but that's okay. I'm optimistic that this will be over soon and that we're going to go back to normal, normal life. And I guess that's it.
Yeah. So with your referral partners, it's that kind of personal touch of giving them a call. What are you communicating to them? Are you telling them like, now's the time where we need to be a little bit more cautious? Are you trying to give them all the details of everything that's going on in servicing? I ask that because I feel like we have a lot of people that don't really know what they should be sharing with realtors. You don't want to scare people, but at the same time, you want to make sure they have all the information they need to make the right decision. So what are you sharing with those people right now?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a great question. And I do have a couple examples of that. Just to touch upon, let's use the verbal verification of employment process. I know that's a huge
big one right now.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing that, I think, I try to be upfront from the very beginning, but with the whole verification of employment process, this is something that started with some of our loans the day before closing, or it was implemented, very quickly. So the way that I handled that, a couple different ways. So one of them, it was a closing and, we can't attend our closings right now. So I think it's even more important to ensure that the closing is as smooth as possible. So in order to do that, I called the realtor the night before. I explained the process, here's what we're doing, here's what we have to do. And again, just to educate, not to create fear, but I wanted to kind of let them know. And I've also been, we're a team, I'm a team player. And one thing I've been implementing is having the title companies send me the form that needs to go for funding. And I'm like, you know what? Let me take something off your plate. Send me the form. I'm going to send it to funding at UWM. I'm going to CC you, and I'm going to make make sure that by the time the closing is done, the realtors have their checks. So I also want the realtors to know, hey, this is what I'm doing, because realtors might not know everything I'm doing behind the scenes. So I want them to know, hey, like this is what's going on. These are the steps I'm taking, and I'm going to ensure that you have a smooth closing. Because if you don't even let them know, then they don't know. They just think, oh, I got my check, Kate's great. No, it's even more than that. So not only did I call the night before, but then I also texted in the middle of the closing to say, hey, I just want to let you know, I woke up first thing this morning. I started working on the wire process. The wire has hit. You are good to go. You will get your check at the time of closing. And he was like, wow, thank you so much. Like, I really appreciate it.
That's amazing. And just, it's one example of how we can, Anthony's been talking a lot recently on getting ahead of the problem before it becomes a problem, right? And so if you can look at that and say, all right, knowing everything that's going on, everyone's overwhelmed. What are the things that I can take control of? But then to your point, make sure that people know everything that you're doing to help them along the way, so that they don't just assume everything is business as usual, because it's not right now.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I've also been prepping the employers. So, one closing, I know it was in the afternoon. So I made sure that a few days before I kind of prepped the employer, like, hey, this is what's going to happen. This is why. And then, the night before, I sent a reminder email to the employer, like, we're closing tomorrow. They're so excited for their new home. This is what you and I can do to make sure that, they get into their home. And it worked great. I think the employer, letting them be employer know why, but then I also took an extra step and I let the borrower know, hey, just so you know, if your employer says we had to verify your employment 3 times, we did, but here's why. And that way it just solves any kind of problem. Like if the employer, happens to say something to the borrower's like, oh yeah, I already know, Kate told me. So it's all good.
That's perfect. Have you adjusted or created any sort of additional checklist to know? Because all the things that you're saying, it's a lot to keep track of, especially with a pipeline the size of yours. For those of you that don't know, Kate is literally one of the top broker owners in the country. Like, you're cranking out more loans than just about anybody else that I've ever met in real life, which is crazy and so impressive. So with a pipeline that big and that many consumers, right, or borrowers that are engaging with you, I would imagine even on a daily basis, how are you making sure that none of these steps fall through the cracks?
Yeah, well, I do have, anytime there's new overlays that come out, I do print them up and keep track of them. But I'm kind of like, it's funny to say, but I'm kind of like Rain Man. Like, I just remember everything that's going on. So I could tell you right now on every single loan in progress, how much the earnest money is for, when the closing date is, when the appraisals due. Like, I just keep it all in here, which is what helps me. It keeps me up at night, but it helps. So I keep track. Yeah, I keep track of it. I have a checklist, right? Because, there's things changing every day.
Right.
So maybe we didn't need reserves tomorrow, but today we do. So anytime there's a new update, I'm printing it out, I'm keeping it right next to me. And I'm just taking that extra step so that when I am doing, pre-qualification, I'm going down that checklist. Okay, wait a minute, is my borrower now over, 40% debt to income? What do I need to look for? Let me just make sure, because the last thing you want is to be unprepared and find out once your loan goes to underwriting, gets approved, you don't have enough reserves. Right. So taking that extra step up front, I think, is huge deal.
Definitely. And it's kind of finding everyone's way of how you need to keep track, right? So for you, you can print it out, you can read it, and you know that you're going to remember it, but you're still going back and double checking before the loan gets too far along in the process. Or if something's right on the edge, making sure that you're aware, like, oh, this one's really close. If a guideline changes again, we might be in trouble. Just keeping your eye on that stuff. I hear a lot of people that are understandably upset because something is in underwriting or it was clear to close, and now there's a new guideline and now their borrower doesn't qualify anymore. But a lot of that could be avoided if you were aware up front, like, oh, this might be kind of dicey down the road. What do I need to do to either close it faster or make sure that if a guideline does change, I know how we need to pivot?
Definitely. And I think a huge shout out to one of my favorite senior underwriters over at UWM. We have a great relationship. He comes to Maine. We go out to dinner together. When I go to Michigan, we're always hanging out. And him and I stay in contact all the time. And I think it's so important because he lets me know of new changes. And he's like, he'll be the first one to message me in the morning. Hey, Kate, just wanted to let you know, we just implemented this change. I have to go back into 2 of your files and we need a couple more reserves so they have any retirement. That's going above and beyond. I'd be lost without him. I love him. He's he's awesome. I don't know if I can name drop, but if he's watching this or if he gets to see this video, like, I'd be lost without my favorite underwriter.
Yeah. How did you build that relationship with him? I imagine it happened over time, but I think that's another really great example of like, you have somebody who's on your side beyond just your account executive at this lender that you use UWM a lot, which is great, but you've got somebody that you can go to when you have questions. So how did you build up that relationship?
Yeah, I think a lot of people focus on relationships, with realtors, and that's great. But I also focus my relationships on, my friends at Class Appraisal and, my underwriters that are my friends. Like actually another underwriter too. I'm going to her wedding in October. So so it's great. Just having those relationships is so important to me. With my title company, they don't send me business, I send them business. But at the end of the day, I nurture that relationship and I take care of that relationship, not only from people that send me business, but also people that I send them business, because I just got to clear to close and I need to close in a few hours. And guess what? They're going to do it for me.
Right. And that's such a great example of like, especially right now, right? We've talked a lot about everybody's at home. Everyone's got more eyeballs on the screen. It's a great time to get in front of consumers, to test out some of these consumer direct methods. Building up your social media presence, but it's also a great time to just check in on those people that are so overly stressed right now that you need those relationships with right? Just giving a call to your friends at Class Appraisal, right? Checking in with Michael or with JT and saying, like, how are you guys doing? Like, I'm not calling you with a problem. I just want to know how you're doing right now.
No, I know. I was texting Michael yesterday, first thing in the morning. I texted him. I was like, how's your dog? Like,
absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's poor dog.
I know. But that's it goes a really long way. People remember that, right? The same way that we talk about consumer, Chris Griffith and I were talking about how by you honestly and humbly engaging with people who are in your social media network, those are the ones that are going to remember you long-term. They might not need a mortgage today, but they might need it in 6 months or a year, have a friend who needs it in a year, and they're going to send people back to you because they knew that you invested time in getting to know them. And it's the same thing on, I don't want to call them on our partner side, right? Any of these partners that you work with, lenders or vendors or appraisers or title companies, realtors, whatever, all of it, they're all still people, right? And I think sometimes we forget that they're still people and they still want to have that same sense of comfort and like they're in the circle and that you care about how they're doing. You're not just always calling them because you've got an issue. You're calling them because you want to be a partner as well.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely. And I know like this week I had one of my clients reach out to me and she was asking about, forbearance, and her husband got laid off and she just got laid off. And so I'm actually working on putting together, I feel like I want to do what I can. So I'm putting together like a care package for her. And I'm going to mail it out with just like essentials that I know she probably needs right now just to get by. So just doing little things like that, because sometimes you do start to feel helpless. Like, what can I do? What can I do to help? And I think it would be easy for people to shrink back at this time. And, like I said, I'm in this for the long haul. So I want to help as many people as I can in any way I can. So pushing forward for sure.
What a great example too of being a leader in your community, right? That I talked to Tyler Hodgson, who's a broker owner down in Texas, NXT Mortgage, and he was doing something kind of similar, right? Different, but in that same sort of vein where he said, look, if you closed a loan with us in the last couple of years or since we started NXT and you can't pay your mortgage payment, instead of going into forbearance, we're going to pay it for you. So let us know.
That.
Right?
Yeah, that was great. Yeah,
exactly. But putting care packages together for people who are struggling right now. I mean, the industry as a whole, it's so important that we try and minimize the impact to our servicers because those are our partners long-term. So if there are ways where you can ease somebody's, financial challenges up front and allow them to continue making their mortgage payments, it's building a relationship. It's help kind of two birds with one stone, right?
Yeah, so definitely.
one of the other things, I know you've talked a little bit about wanting to get into more of this consumer direct marketing. What are some of the things that you plan on trying in that space while we all are at home and not able to get out and meet people face to face?
Andrew at Lead Pops.
Andrew,
shout out. Hopefully he's watching. He'll be so excited. No, but definitely social media. I'm blessed that I, for many years I grew my business not being on social media. So it's definitely something that's new for me. And it's a little scary, to put yourself out there. Definitely. But I'm going to, I've got some stuff that I'm working on. So I'm pretty excited.
That's awesome. So one last question that I want to touch on, because you've always had some pretty big goals, right? Like you said, you're in it for the long haul. You've got big goals. So what are your goals, both in the short term and then coming out of, hopefully sometime soon, everything that's been happening in the market recently? Where are you looking to go? What's that trajectory look like for you?
So I think my goal, I do have goals. I like to focus on how many people I help. That's like huge for me. So last year it was a little over 300 people that I got to help. So this year I want to do even more, of course. And I focus on volume as well, but not as much as the numbers, because I'd rather help more people. Whether it's $1 million home on the ocean or it's a, mobile home that I'm needing to close for 90,000 because it's all they can afford. I treat people the same. So definitely my goal, if either this year or next year, is to hit 100 million. That's definitely a huge goal of mine. And I was telling you that when I was partying with Matt Ishbia, I was like, you and I, I'm going to do 100 million this year. So whether it's this year or next year, because of what just happened, it's okay. But it's definitely a goal of mine for sure.
That's where you're headed. That's amazing. Everybody, Kate is definitely somebody to keep your eye on. You've been a great supporter of AIME. I've been so lucky to get to know you over the last couple of months. One of the highlights of Costa Rica was definitely getting to hang out with you and Lee some. So thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, it really was. And today was so fun as well. Everybody, there's so much that you can take away from listening to Kate. I think the biggest thing that resonates that you just said is focus on helping more people. If you focus on helping more people, the business is going to follow. Your goals are going to be met. And right now is the perfect time to do it, because not everybody is an immediate customer or consumer, right? Some of these are long-term plays, but if the goal is to help people, you can do that today, whether they're getting a mortgage or refinancing their house or not. All of these people can be helped now, immediately. I love that. That's definitely something, it's part of why brokers are better, right? Because we can help everyone. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Everybody, Anthony will be back at around 1 o'clock today to answer all of your questions. He's doing an open Q&A this afternoon. And then we'll be back tomorrow with some more people. So Kate, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.